Hi everyone, it's Angela here from She Simply Impacts, and we are about to have another amazing panel discussion. The topic today is harnessing the power of energy and intuition. So I've got a fabulous team of our experts with me, and I'll get them to introduce themselves. We'll start with Janine, but before we do that, Mary will be facilitating, and so once we've done our introductions, Mary can take over. So Janine.
Thank you, Angela. So my name is Janine Boss, but on the platform, I help people with their sales. So having more sales in their business, but doing it from a really authentic, heartfelt space.
Beautiful. Jen?
Thanks, Ange. I'm Jen Gills, and in the beautiful She Simply Impacts membership, I run holistic healing sessions, which are really gorgeous, all about energy shifting, stagnant energy, and healing within.
Amazing. Mary?
Hi everyone, Mary Wong. I'm from Optimal Life Solutions. On the platform, I work with leadership and with writing. So we help people with writing their stories, writing their books, that sort of thing.
Amazing. And Sashua?
Thank you, Ange. Hello, everyone. My name is Sashua Benay. I'm a transformation coach, speaker mentor, and intuitive mentor. And on the platform, I run the intuitive mindset sessions to create transformations each and every week.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I'm going to hand us over to Mary now. Mary's going to facilitate the discussion, harnessing the power of energy and intuition. So let's see what comes out of this.
I'm excited about this because this is such an amazing discussion topic. And so thanks for coming up with this topic. I'm looking forward to what our ladies have to share with us today. I'm actually going to start with Sashua, because I think Sashua knows the answer to this one better than anybody does. And I'd love to hear her spin first before anyone else's. And that is, Sashua, what does energy and intuition mean to you, and how are they interconnected?
Great question, Mary. They are very much interconnected. So from an energy point of view, I think we all know we are energy. And we say that quite a lot, but what does that actually mean? What does that mean for us on a daily basis? And for me, it means that there is a whole part of us that is bigger than what we show up with every day. There is more of a soul-centered us, one that transcends beyond this lifetime. And I'm a big believer in that we are a soul and we live beyond just one lifetime experience. And that is the core of our energy. It's also what we bring to every situation, the unique vibration of our energy and how we navigate this planet. When it comes to intuition, that's the language of our soul. That's the language of who we really are. And it's how we can discern information from the universe. It's how we can connect in with our spirit guides. It's how we can really innately know what our direction is in this life to fulfill on the purpose and destiny that we've come to live.
Beautiful. Thank you. How about you, Janine? I know you do a lot of work in energy and intuition type work as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much, Mary. And I will reiterate everything that Sashua has said, very much coming from that space that we are souls who are having a human experience. And as we learn from each human experience, what I have been doing different forms of healing and intuitive work with people for quite a long time. And it's not something people see me from a business space and don't necessarily see me coming in from that space at all. And often when I'm starting to work with someone, I will sit back and go, okay, we don't need to be doing the stuff yet. We need to connect first so that you are in the right space and the right mindset. And we might do some form of healing work with them. So just to open up, because if we're closed down, we can't receive information. But I remember one of the shamans that I have been a student of for many years, I said to her, you know, I'm just doing business all the time. And the just word came out as opposed to doing energy work. And she said, every day you're turning up doing what you're doing is what you're meant to be doing. And that's how you influence the world around you and the people around you by being who you are and doing what you're doing. I don't need to sit on top of the mountain with my legs crossed and fingers out doing a meditation. And she said, you just continue to do what you do. And that's what the difference is.
Okay. And Jen, you do a lot of healing work as well. So I dare say you could resonate with some of that. Tell me what your thoughts are around that healing work as a start to doing any kind of journey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary. And Sashua, you spoke so eloquently around that, and I just ditto to all of it. And Janine, ditto. I think for me, it's also about tapping into your heart space and having that self-awareness. So out of your mind and into your heart, and going into that feeling space as well. So with me for intuition, I really feel. There's a feeling first and then there's a knowing. Does that make sense? So the messages come through that way. And yes, so with my healings, I tap into the energy that's coming from source, so all energy, right? And receive the messages that way. There's a feeling and then there's a knowing, and I know what to do intuitively. Does that make sense?
It does. And there were a lot of years where I didn't recognize the feeling. I did know the knowing when it came, but I wasn't sure about the feeling. And it took me a while to get to know it. And how do you think women can recognize and start to interpret their own intuitive signals? Because when you sit there not knowing or not being sure, it kind of makes you prevaricate a lot, doesn't it?
It does. I think it's that thing of really trusting. It's like, because I know for myself that I very much go on gut instinct. Like I've always been like that. And there's definitely been times when I've known, or, like I've kind of intuitively even known it was the wrong thing, but I've still done it. And so trusting my gut, it's sort of like but not maybe having the confidence to trust. So it's sort of just, I think, learning from that, reflecting and saying, this has come up for me before and I didn't trust it before, or I did trust it. And then sort of that reflection to build the confidence, I think.
And that's that self-awareness that Jen was talking about, right? That being aware and taking the time to reflect and going, oops, got that one wrong, didn't I? And what went wrong? How did that happen? That's really a very powerful point. Have you gave us an example of when you haven't trusted it. What about when you have trusted it? What is there an example you can give us of an experience where you did trust it and something really amazing came out of it?
Yes. Well, this is quite funny because in the year when I had like starting She Simply Impacts and working on it, like when I actually it was very intuitive, because I was actually supposed to be working on my other business, because I've got two businesses. So I've got the Vision Accountable and She Simply Impacts, but I'd actually, quit my job at Carers Queensland, which was 3 days a week, to do my business full time. But intuitively, I just kept doing the other one. And I had this virtual assistant, and I just kept giving him the website to do. And then I was thinking to myself, I'm doing this. And then, so it was kind of very intuitive. It was like, I was just giving him this and it just kept going. So that was sort of one example of how I was really supposed to be doing the other thing, but here I was doing this, and I'm just sort of trusting my gut. And it's not really, to build something and get it off the ground, it takes, the other thing is the bread and butter type of thing. And so, so that's one example. There's lots of examples where I've trusted my instincts and it's been right. Lots of times. That's what
I can relate to that too, though, even from the perspective of what courses I've decided to do as I've gone on with my life. I've had people say to me, Mary, you got bright, shiny object syndrome. What are you studying that for? That's got nothing to do with what you were doing before. And yet, in the end, I knew I needed to be there. And in the end, both of those things just came together to form what I now do so beautifully. But at the time, I didn't think they were at all related. I just knew I had to be there. I've also had experiences where I've signed up with coaches and mentors who I knew right from the start. The day that I went in and listened to them speak, I went, this isn't for me. I knew it straight away, and yet somehow allowed myself to be talked into signing up. And boy, what a waste of money did that end up being, and time and effort. So it really is about listening to that intuition and growing that muscle, strengthening that intuition. Sashua, do you have any tips for how we can strengthen our intuition?
Absolutely. Lots of tips, I guess, for the purposes of today. I also have two businesses. So one is literally a spiritual university. We run over 300 different courses, healings, workshops. And I guess when we're really trying to tune into our intuition, because it's not a one size fits all. You know, sometimes I think when we're tuning into intuition, we'll learn little tidbits along the way, and they can be helpful. But if we understand the language that the universe is going to use for us uniquely, that's where our intuition can truly expand and how we can learn to trust it. So briefly, I would describe that in a language of prophecy, vision, intuition, and feeling. And they're 4 different languages. If we can try and give it a system, a bit like, think of it like a disc profile, but for spiritual language. That we all have all 4 gifts, but the order in which we have them, the way in which we use them is very unique from person to person. So if we can understand what our unique gifts are, and here's what we can listen out for or feel into as we're going about our day, is if we were using our prophecy gift first and foremost, that is the inner knowing. That's when we get a phone call and we haven't looked at the screen, but we know who it is. We know who's calling. We don't know how we know. Or someone goes for a job interview and we know they're going to get it. We don't know how we know. We just know. Can't explain it. And there's a gift of vision, which is more pictures in our mind's eye. And some people are much more visionary than others. So our visionary gift is actually getting visual cues or getting pictures in our mind that's like a blueprint. And then when we get that blueprint from the universe, we can organize the intimate detail of it as if we were having perfect memory. And so they're the people who are super organized and look immaculate, and, you know, they're using that visual gift. And then there's the gift of intuition, which I know we use in general language, but more specifically, it's the clairaudient gift. So it's literally hearing thoughts that come with words and feelings, and they'll generally be quite quick messages. They'll be sharp and to the point, and we can trust them. You know, they're real truth. And then there's our feeling gift, which is the gut feeling that many people relate to. Our sensitivity just senses, I just have this feeling I need to go there, or I just have this feeling that I've met this person before. I don't know where from, but I don't think I've met them this lifetime, but it's likely perhaps a connection before. So there's a language that we can learn to really amplify our intuitive gifts, to understand how the universe is going to communicate with us, because they are communicating every day, all day. And if we can tune into how it works for us, then our intuition generally will expand exponentially.
And it sometimes is about, often is about making the space to allow that, right? And
Absolutely.
I know Janine was saying before that she doesn't need to sit on a mountain and meditate, but I also know that she does take time to look after herself, because I do know Janine rather well. And how about you? How do you think mindfulness and meditation can enhance those sorts of intuitive skills?
You need space. You actually need to remove the clutter that's going on in your mind to be able to allow that through. And Mary, you've heard me say this before. I'm sometimes like a goldfish. You know, I'll sort of get to the end of the bowl and I go, I don't know what I was thinking about. And it's there's nothing there. it's not, and holding grudges. I'm the worst person. I'm probably the best person to ever have an argument with. I'll have an opinion, I'll have an argument, then I'll forget what it was all about in about 10 seconds afterwards, because of that. So that, and what that brings though is that opportunity just to clear the mind and not to have fear, and not to be worried about what if, particularly what if. And that just sort of holds us back from so many points. And Sashua, I am definitely that intuition more than anything else. I'll go and I have notepads sitting here at my desk. So while as someone's saying something that I've been thinking about for a while just popped in again, and I'll write things down. I'm always going, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. Oh, and I wrote down, I'll call David. Well, we're just having the conversation then. There's constantly that sort of thing. And so I go, yeah, sure. And I'll just write it down, and I'll figure out why I've got to do it. I have no idea. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to, well, I'll wait till we get off here. But I'm just going to.
Thank you for that.
to do it. But particularly having been in sales for a long time, it's very handy when you just go, okay, I need to call that person, but taking action on what you get is such an important factor as well. So whether it's you've meditated on it, you've cleared the mind, and then something comes through, that's very nice. That's great. But unless you take action of it of what you're meant to be doing, then it can be quite fleeting and it disappear. And even if that action is to write it on a piece of paper.
And you're so right about that. And I love the writing it down thing. I find myself, if I don't write things down that come in at that time, the world gets in the way. The kids ask for something, a client calls up, something else happens, and then I'll go, now I had that really, really good thought before. What was that? You can't get it back. You must write it down. Yeah. I used to be in fashion, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night with an amazing design idea and think, oh, that'll be all right, I'll remember that. And you never did. The one time that I did actually grab a notebook and draw it, it won all sorts of awards. So I really needed to learn from that, even way back then, that was the thing to do, to write it down, to keep it written down. So I've gotten better at that over the years. How about you, Jen? Can you share techniques that you put in place to help you develop your intuition?
Yeah, sure. So I was just going to say, add on to that, the more you acknowledge it and action it, the more you trust and believe in the intuition, and the more you open up that channel. So it's really, really important to, action it and acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about getting out of the mind and into the heart, because I remember when I started on this journey, when I started tapping into actually wanting to tap into my intuition and wanting to open up spiritually, I used to say to myself, I've got a busy mind, and my mind would be going all over the place all of the time. And I remember when we moved up to the Whitsundays, it was about 4 years ago now, and I went to a yoga class, and we did a little meditation at the end, and the yoga teacher was beautiful. She was really calm and just gorgeous, and the meditation was beautiful, but my mind was going ching, 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 ching. So I stayed and I had a bit of a chat to her after. And I just said, how do I calm my mind in these sessions, in this meditation? And she just said, breath. Just breathe and concentrate on your breathing. And so for me, that breath work, that, taking your awareness to the in-breath and the out-breath, slows down that mind, and then just taking your awareness to what you feel and all of your senses, really, one by one. And it's really powerful. It's so simple. And that has helped me, especially initially on my journey.
Hands up who does breath work here. You don't do breath work, Angela? You do more meditative.
Meditation.
I mean, the breath, the breathe, focusing on your natural breath is a third of any retreat I
Part
ever
of
Yeah.
things. Mm.
Yeah. So hands up, all of us, because the breath work is powerful. It's super powerful. And breathing is something that we all do 24/7. If we stop doing it, we're not here anymore. So that in itself tells us how much it has to do with us and our own life essence, if you will, if your energy. And protecting our energy is really important. And what do you do to protect your energy?
Yep. So I mean, things that protect my energy are obviously like self-care. Self-care is sort of the foundation, and my self-care is meditating, going to the gym, and not filling my schedule to the like chock-a-block, so that I've just got a bit of breathing space and I'm not feeling. They're the main things.
I love that. It's breathing space. And you know what? We use that expression all the time. And it's never just in that moment when you said get a bit of breathing space. That's where it went, oh, Mary, duh. Why didn't you realize that before? That's what it is. It's breathing space. Sashua, do you have any other techniques that you would add to that?
Yeah, there's two different angles, I guess, I would come from that question. One is keeping our energy really cleansed, because as we go through different environments, we have conversations, we go throughout our day, it's like sometimes we can accumulate energy, and energy comes in all forms, yin and yang, light and dark. So if we can do energy techniques to help keep us cleansed, then that will help get ahead of needing to protect ourselves. The second thing that I would say also, which I feel is really important, is that sometimes we feel like, or, I've certainly had hundreds of clients over the years who have felt this need to protect their energy, from negative people in their environment or their space, or negative experiences that they've had that can be understandably very draining. Is that when we can more powerfully tune into our soul self, because our soul self is so much more potent and unlimited and expanded than our human selves. Total respect to our human selves. We're here doing the hard yards. But our soul self has so many solutions for us. And when we can do techniques to actually tap into our soul self, we don't actually need protection. Our energy is so big. We're so in the fullness of our uniqueness, and the fact that we're this incredible soul who's decided to have a lifetime for learning experiences and to grow and evolve. It puts a very different perspective on the experiences we're having in life. And all of a sudden we don't come from, and I will call it more of that victim space. We come from a space of, actually, I'm having these experiences for a reason. Let me understand them so I stop attracting them. And then the power's more in our hands, and we feel more empowered to actually be in making decisions on how we navigate that landscape to change it.
And it's a beautiful, free feeling when you're in that space.
Yes,
I guess for all of us, we're at different stages along in our journey there, and some of us are not at that point yet. So if we're looking at the fact that some of the people listening to this might not be at that point yet, I guess the question would be, how do we avoid the energy drains if we haven't learned enough to get to that point yet? Do you have a suggestion around that, Janine?
Mary, this is something I've been talking to my 11-year-old grandson about, particularly, and we gave the example when we flew to Sydney together, and I said something that I do on planes, because a lot of people get on and off planes, and then when they get off, they're not feeling well, and they might come down with something. So I said, what we need to do is we put a protective coat all over us, so that nothing that we don't want to come through won't come through. And then I had to explain to him exactly how to do that. And it was talking about, putting some white light that is all around you, like you're in a bubble. And this white light will only let good things in. It won't let other things in at all. And he went along with it and applied it as well as he said he could. And it was really interesting. His 8-year-old sister said something about someone, and he said, you need to protect yourself. You need to put the light around you, which was really lovely. That one, I've always, and one of the things I do is psychometry, and I'm able to, hold on to something that belongs to somebody and then have the feelings and the emotions and the story that comes with it. And when I do that, I can get involved in what's going on, but I'm not connected to it. And again, it's that, and I think that might be where you're coming from, Sashua. That's my soul source, as your wording is, that I'm not connected to that I can have the whole experience and even the emotions, but it's not mine. And I think that's a really important factor, that people understand what's going on around them. And I'm the first one to jump in, and Mary knows I'll have an opinion or whatever, but what's going on around us is not necessarily ours to be involved with in a spiritual space as well. So not allowing that energy to give away. But a simple thing, as you said, Mary, for someone to do start away is just imagine you're in this bubble of white light, and it's feeding you that energy, and it's protecting you.
So would you say that's a visualization, or would you say that's bigger than a visualization because you're feeling it as well? It's not just seeing it.
I'd start as a visualization, especially with the 11-year-old. It needed to be a visualization. And then it's a sense, well, for me, it's just a sense it's done. It's not, I have to feel it a certain way. But then again, that I tend to be more visual than kinesthetic anyway. So that maybe that space. Whereas he actually felt it. I could feel him that he felt it. Yeah.
It's amazing, like what Sasha was saying earlier about us all having different ways of different, what's the word I'm after, Sasha? I was going to say priorities. It's languages. Yeah, different ways that we do this, and because of those different ways, we all approach things slightly different. We can use the same technique but approach it from a different angle, which is really exciting, I think. And that goes, I think, understanding that is kind of the ultimate in self-care, understanding that we are all unique beings and we all have our own way of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with doing it your way. That's actually the right thing to do. I think that's the ultimate in self-care, is looking after yourself from that place. Jen, are there other things about self-care? We've mentioned self-care before, but are there other things that we can use in self-care so that we're able to maintain our optimal energy levels?
Absolutely. And I love that, because I love this question. I've just finished a 7-day self-care challenge.
Oh, lovely.
It's been incredible, because we did simple activities like drawing, so coming into a creative space. We did meditation, tuning into music, so sitting with your favorite music playlist in a space of your own. So there are so many different ways that you can fill your cup. And so fill your cup is, giving yourself that, raising your energy back up so that you are able to then do the things that you do practically in life every day. So, it can be simply sitting down, reading a book and having a cuppa. There's no right or wrong. There are no rules in this. We get to live our life the way that makes us feel good, in the way that we choose. So however it is, I'm not an avid reader. I love books. I wish I was. But for me, sitting down with a cup of tea and listening to some beautiful music fills my cup. That brings back my energy. So it can be really simple. Yeah.
How about you, Ange? What brings your energy back?
I think I'm not that as creative. Like, I've just got those three things at the gym. Like, what really does bring my energy up is moving my body. Like, I absolutely have to do that. Because that is just, I've always been like that. Like, as a kid, I absolutely love sport. I couldn't wait to play netball. And so, yeah, it's just for me, because otherwise I feel my energy stagnates. And I like going to the park, like simple things. Like the other night, Kevin and I went down to the river and we live in a river suburb in Brisbane, and it was really nice. You know, we were only there for like 15 minutes, but it was just, there wasn't anyone there. It was right when the sun was setting, and there's a little pontoon, and just little things like getting out of my environment. I think that would be the thing, is getting out of my environment. Like going to the river, going to a cafe, going somewhere that I'm not always in these same four walls, but moving my body is like, you know, and meditating is a foundation. I don't even, you know, it's like it just goes without saying.
Yeah, so I'm curious, are all of these little outings and things that you do, are they conscious decisions? Are they planned out? Are they, today I'm going to do this, this, and this so that I get out of my environment? Or are they things that you just intuitively go and do?
I think that, well, the gym is planned. I mean, the gym is planned. Meditating is planned. Like, it's just, I do it the first thing I get up. If I'm very lucky, I can do it, you know, between 4 and 5 or 5 and 6, you know, earlier the better, but otherwise it doesn't really matter. Sometime in the evening I'll do it. But then the rest, it's not planned. Maybe if it was, that might be a good idea. I could try that. I could actually put all that in my schedule, like the cafe, going to the river, going to the park, being around trees. I should actually put that in my diary.
It's interesting though, because I have this, I find I have a different energy around something that I've planned as opposed to something where I've allowed it to be spontaneous. And I'm just sort of curiously going about that. Okay, how much of it's spontaneous? How much of it's is planned? And does that affect the energy of it? Is it a conscious decision?
That's a really good question. And the other one is having a bath. It's a really good question, you know, and I don't, mine aren't planned. I just do it when I feel I need it.
They aren't, but they are, because like you said, you have your
yes
your non-negotiables that happen every day, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good strategy, to have the non-negotiables in place and planned and structured, but to also throw in some of the unplanned ones. I love that, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I find it a bit boring if everything's already structured. I like a bit of excitement. It's interesting, because having those sorts of things in place are decisions, they're conscious decisions, and using our intuition rather than making a conscious decision. Or are we using our intuition when we make a conscious decision? How does that all tie together, and how do we put that in place to make better decisions in our personal lives? That's, I guess, the question for Sashua, I think.
Yeah, well, when we're going through our life, even our daily routines, it's important that we do take time to tune in, particularly first thing in the morning when our energy is really clear. We've come in fresh from the universe. You know, I always spend some time in bed just as I'm waking up. I don't spring straight out of bed the moment I'm aware that I'm awake. I actually stay right there before anything else happens, so that my brain is very relaxed. Sometimes I'll put on binaural beats and things to really deepen the connection, and really tune into the messages of the day. And that might even be dreams as well. For those of us who dream, sometimes you can get some amazing insights when you dream. That's part of the language of the universe as well. I feel also at the end of the day is also another really great time to do that, to wash your energy clean from the day, whether that's through a shower, whether it's through a meditation. You know, there's various cleansing techniques you can do, so that you're setting your intention for the next day. It can be great to put out to the universe what you want help with the next day. Hot tip, everyone, get a pen and paper next to your bedside table. And at the end of the day, just write up the top, okay, universe, I'd like help with, please. And then just 2-3 points maximum, just what you'd like support with, help with, clarity on, breakthroughs with, whatever it is. Just keep it really simple and start engaging with the universe, because as I said, they want to speak to you every day. They're trying to get through messages. So if you can give them that outlet, and then you're really setting yourself up for setting the energy and intentions for the next day as well, so that your energy feels more solid. You know, you might even get insights on how things might turn out, or pitfalls or alarms to be aware of, so that you're ahead of how energy might go a little bit left of middle, and you can be ahead of that so you can help direct the traffic. And if we have that conscious intention, the beginning and end of each day, then all our interactions in between tend to be a little smoother as well. And I think finally, the thing I'd say is, as we are going through our day, is to be very aware of our inner dialogue. Because yes, the universe is always trying to communicate with us, but our little brain, our intellect also is a bit of an open door to all the things we should have done, shouldn't have done, might do, will I do, the indecision, the self-judgment, the worry, the fear, all of that dialogue is also going on all the time. So the goal is to turn down the volume on those and turn up the volume of, connecting with our inner soul and the language of the universe in those moments. So it's catching the voices that aren't of use to us, that aren't of benefit to us, and make a conscious decision in that moment to change trajectory and go, no, you know what? I'm going to let that voice go, and I'm going to tune into where I do really need to be right now and how I can best support myself. And to me, that's the ultimate of self-care, is to do that and really maintain our energy on a daily basis.
I love it. There are two little things. I just want to step you back just for a moment. Two little things that you mentioned in there that I thought that could do with maybe a little bit of explanation. The first one is waking up in the morning, we're fresh from the universe.
Yes. So our body remains in our bed every night when we go to bed, but our soul actually travels out to the universe, and we check in with what I would call our spirit guides. You might call them angels, universe, your super conscious. Everyone's using different words, and it doesn't really matter what word we use. We're all talking about the same thing. But where our soul is then, checking in with our destiny and our purpose, and are we on track? And what is it that we could do tomorrow to help us further being more in alignment with our path and where we need to be and who we need to be communing with. So if we can tap into those insights when our brain is more switched off, we'll get much more clear impressions from our guides and impressions through our intuition to inform decisions we then make in our businesses and in our relationships and in our health. So it's a more top-down approach by way of soul first, then human, that can really empower our days and totally change the trajectory of our lives, quite frankly. But there's not enough time to talk about that right now.
No, well, that's opened up about 300 questions from me, which I don't need to go down right now. But you and I, I'm sure we'll talk about those later, because it's quite fascinating. The other thing you talked about was binaural beats. Now, I know what binaural beats are, but I'm not sure that everybody does. Would you mind just doing a very quick explanation on binaural beats?
Sure, absolutely. Quick explanation is binaural beats are like a musical piece, if you will, that's beats of energy. So you can get them online, you can search for them on YouTube. But what you can do is it brings you back into a frequency of energy that's much more calming and soothing, because we are electromagnetic energy. And we are surrounded by electromagnetic energy all the time, whether it's our Wi-Fi, our mobile phones, all the towers, the mobile towers that are around us, all of that. If we're energy, then we're being impacted by all of that energy. And binaural beats helps smooth out our frequency so we can be much more in balance and in tune with our vibration rather than being impacted by the vibration external to us.
And I remember I was introduced to binaural beats many years ago when I was in recovery from some severe depression, and the psychologist put me onto them. We used to use them to help me sleep, and they were amazing.
They're amazing.
You don't even really hear them so much. It's sort of on a subconscious level. It's pretty amazing stuff. I'm actually going to move to Jen this time, because Jen, I would love to ask you, one of the things that we talked about was the inner voices and the that quietening that inner chatter as opposed to the intuitive guidance. So what techniques can you use to help balance those two different voices, the intuitive insights and that analysis stuff that we do of ourselves with that inner voice?
There's so many things you can do. I think what Angela was talking about, the having some structure is a really great idea. So, you know, and also, Sashua, what you were saying is having that early morning routine. And that's a good place, you know, a beautiful, mindful place to be able to really tap into the voices that you want to hear. You can do things like meditation, just sitting in stillness. A really practical one is getting a piece of paper and writing down all the things that are in your head, talking them out loud, or journaling, or you can even journal into your phone. Someone told me this a couple of months ago. So, you know, talk into the voice recorder on your phone, and it's like just getting it all out of your head and into the phone or onto the paper. Being out in nature is a really beautiful way to come back to that beautiful peace and calm within. For me, anyway, I quite often go out, take my shoes off and ground into Mother Earth and really connect into Mother Earth and the energy there. And that really helps me. So there are so many different ways you can still the mind, the monkey mind. And even, you know, the binaural beats is a perfect example of that. You just mentioned, Mary. That was really, yeah.
That monkey mind is a big thing. And one of the things that I came across at one point is just observing the mind. So it's kind of pulling yourself out of it rather than letting it take you where it wants to go, just going, oh, where are you going now? Well, isn't that interesting? I wonder what that comes from and what that's about, and going into that self-reflection and sitting in that space of, that was an interesting thing to observe about myself, rather than going, oh, my mind's going everywhere, which doesn't really serve us, right?
Yeah, and knowing that it's okay. And, you know, it's okay to have a busy mind sometimes, and acknowledging those thoughts that are coming in and knowing that those thoughts are coming in for a specific reason for you. So allowing them to come in, acknowledging them, maybe writing them down and allowing them to move on.
But just not letting them control us, right? Yeah, and it is about being in that space of being in control of ourselves. Janine, I know that you've talked about how often you used your intuition within your business and within your work, and I'd love to hear some examples. I know recently you've just won a rather large national business award, which you're very excited about. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And you said something to me about writing the submission. I remember you saying something to me about writing the submission, and it was a much better submission than you usually do. Was there intuition involved in that, do you think?
This is a really hard spot for me, Mary, because what intuition for me is just what comes through when I do it. So, you know, to put a label on it is a tricky space to go, okay, that's a good idea and do it. Oh, that's a good idea and do it. And that's a good idea and do it. And it doesn't, there's often things, you know, they'll come through and go, no, I don't need to be doing that, and move away from it. But yes, that with that particular exercise, we'll call it, I did go, okay, let's put some work into this and make sure that everything's answered correctly. And I didn't go to the awards night. It was in Sydney, and I spoke to a friend the day before who was going down, and I said to Lara, oh, Lara, by the way, while you're there, can you pick up my trophy for me, please? And it was a throwaway line, but it was, you know, putting the intention out. I think that's a really big point of anything, is to put that intention out as to what you want to achieve. And I've been thinking, and being on this panel even today, it's been a really good reminder for me to step back more into that or just recognize that space more often. And it sounds, for me, a lot of stuff, very, very blessed, thank you very much, where it comes from. It seems easy to just go, it's just easily done. And I don't want to simplify that. I think that's just through years of listening, I suppose, and going, okay, that
Mm.
works or that doesn't work. I have a saying that, you know, if something's happening and I'm not paying attention, I'd rather be hit with a feather than a brick or a bus. And I think the feather's a nice way to go. I remember when I left a senior management role and stepped into my business full-time, I'd been doing it part-time, the universe presented somebody into that workplace that changed the whole culture that didn't fit with me. And after a couple of months, I went, I don't need to be doing this anymore. I just don't need to be doing it. And it was, I took a couple of days off work because of it. And I thought, this is just not me at all. And so I left, and it was mid-18, and I was going to leave mid-19 with the intention of traveling for 3 months in Europe in 20. But instead, because the universe brought that person a year earlier, I left in 18 and traveled in Europe for 3 months in 19. And we know what happened in 20.
You were meant to go.
It was just that, you know, it didn't get to the brick stage. It just got, I don't need to be. And I think that's part of it. At some stage when you're going, I don't need to be doing this, whatever it might be. That's a really good time to stop and pay attention to what it is and act on that. I don't need to be doing this.
It is about paying attention, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Are there other blocks, do you think, Sashua? Do you think there are other blocks other than just paying attention?
There definitely are other blocks. We were talking before about the balance of yin and yang, and, you know, the fact that we know that there's light energy to tune into, and there's the opposite. Like, why is it that some days, you know, we wake up and we feel less than fabulous, or, you know, we sabotage ourselves when we go into certain situations? So to me, yes, there is energy. You know, I would put a word to it that I would use called confused souls, which gives it an understanding to know that there are influences around us, and we can learn to cleanse them so that they don't infiltrate us on a daily basis. But I think we all know there's something sometimes not right. So why is that? If we're these incredible beings and we're souls and we're part of the light, and here we are doing our thing as a human on planet Earth, what interferes with that? So we know that there's something there. And so confused souls, I would just describe people like you and I who have passed on and they've lost their physical body, but not everyone goes to the same place when they pass on. Some people will, you know, go to the light, as many people with near-death experiences will explain the tunnel of light, and everyone has their unique experience of that. But some souls get more caught around us, and particularly loved ones sometimes, you know, from this lifetime, who perhaps we still feel around, but we still feel very negative emotions, you know, the upset of their loss, even when it's been a number of years. Not to say that we'll not always miss people, of course we will, but it's the impact of their energy sometimes that can drain our energy. And we all have those kind of influences around us every day. And that's why sometimes you think, why can't I get past this feeling of dread, indecision, anger, judgment, resentment, you know, insert whatever word is relevant. You know, it's like a recurring theme that continues throughout our journey, throughout our 7-year cycles. And they can be embedded in our chakras. It can be because of the impact of these confused souls who may not be loved ones. There's other, you know, elements of that as well. But it's really important to understand that it's not us. I think sometimes we can give ourselves a hard time that we're the ones that are broken. We're the ones that aren't showing up fully enough. And whilst we are playing a part in it, we are not the only part of the energy to take into consideration. And if we can detach from that a little, know that we've got light around us, we've got the shadow world around us, and we're best trying to navigate between those two things, then we can start making more conscious decisions of not giving that airtime, not giving it energy, not buying into it too much, but consciously deciding to set our intention for tuning more into the light. So stopping ourselves when we're having those negative thoughts that can be amplified by this shadow world, and choose differently. how do I overcome this? You know, literally, if we don't have conscious connection with the universe, there's nothing stopping us from throwing things out there like, hey, universe, I really need some help here right now. Or, hey, universe, I've got a really big day tomorrow. Or, hey, universe, I'm really stuck in this indecision around this topic. Can you just drop in the insight sometime to help me clarify my next step? Just open up the lines of communication so that where our energy, our intention, the direction that we want is more tuning into the light, rather than being caught with the confused souls that, you know, trip us up on a daily basis.
Because we need to be open to it, don't we?
It's happening whether we're open or not. So why
Yeah.
not be curious and find out how it's working so that we can have a more joyful life, because that's what we're here to do. You know, we can talk about all the systems and things, and, you know, I could tell you about 100 different techniques to do. But at the end of the day, we're here to have a joyful life. We're here to be expanding our energy and be filled with love and light and inspiration. So what is blocking us from that? I want to know. And that's what I've spent the last 20 plus years doing. What's in the way of me living this incredible life? Because I want more. And I know there's more. I want to give more. So I get very determined, as you can hear, that to switch those voices off and that impact of that energy and learn how to keep that at bay so that you can truly open up to the universe and enjoy the experience, because life is not meant to be endured. It is meant to be enjoyed. And feeling that inspiration, once you start to tap into it, it's a little bit addictive. And I highly recommend it.
Just a touch,
Because
just
it
a
brings
touch.
beautiful experiences into our life. You know, beautiful partners. If you'd compare the partners I had in my early life compared to my partner now, chalk and cheese. If you compare my corporate career back then to the business that I now have and the fact that I channel all the techniques that I use in my business, chalk and cheese. So if I can give a bit of inspiration out there to encourage people to be curious, because it truly is, you know, life-changing in so many ways, so many ways.
And I think you've answered, I think, probably 3 or 4 of my next questions. Thank you. One of them was about resources and tools and clearing mental and emotional blocks, and certainly you've talked about them. Angela, do you have any tools that you could add to that?
No, but what I could do is I could just sort of talk about like the mind, what we're thinking. So what are we telling ourselves, you know, is a really important thing to be asking. What am I telling myself, and is it true? Is this true? And, you know, I know that, you know, if something happens and I get very triggered, it's really hard to see the forest from the trees, you know, and my perspective is very cloudy and I'm not having a great experience, you know, I'm kind of suffering, you know, and it's so true. It's like, but questions can really get us out of it, you know.
Yep.
And obviously coaching is all about questions. It's all about, and that's what, you know, She Simply Impacts is a whole platform so that we've got access to coaching, affordable, you know, coaching, which is, you know, all of us are very expensive in our private, you know, private practice, but we're here. And I think those questions and hearing other people share, I mean, that is a technique, a tool in and of itself. But that self-coaching, what am I telling myself? Is this true? And just kind of having that, you know, that step back from being the person in it to the person that can see the person in it, the witness, you know. Yeah, and you know, writing is a great thing. Like writing it out is a wonderful, that's what I mean, I'm a self-published poet, so writing is a go-to for me. And that's the other technique as well, which I haven't been doing as much of lately, but I still have been. And gosh, it's helpful. Like if I can't clarify something, it's, you know, it's time to just write it all out. And what am I telling myself? And is this true? And what do I want to be feeling? What do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? I mean, I ask myself that all the time. It's like, who
Yeah.
do I want to be? And when I know I'm not being who I want to be, that's when it's time to either the self-coaching, the writing it out, and the coaching, accessing the coaches, because we all need help, like no matter who we are.
Even those of us who are coaches
Professional coaches,
need coaching.
Absolutely.
that's right. Professional coaches need coaches, and we all attend sessions, as well. And that, there's a reason for that, is because, we're going through our own life and our own stuff, but we're also skilled at helping other people, facilitate other people's journey as well, to what Sasha's saying, which is joy, to that joy space, to that empowered space, to that space unstoppable.
Ooh. You just gave me goosebumps. That was very cool. Thank you. And it was interesting what you were saying about, buying into the stories. We all buy into stories. We've all had conditioning through our life from the stories that have been carried down over the generations about this is how life's meant to be. And I know that only, my mother, for example, had a very, very hard childhood, and her stories that came from this is what life's meant to be was something that we then learnt as children. And you're right, that sort of thing can be triggering. You find yourself moving along quite happily and something comes in and you go, whoa, and your thoughts go back to those places. And there are moments in there where you have to stop and go, wait, is that a story I'm buying into? Wait, is this actually correct? Is this what works for me? And it is about finding what works for us, isn't it? We've all got different things that work for us. Jen, what works for you in those tools that you can use to clear? Like Ange said, she writes poetry. What do you do?
So for me, really getting out in nature is a big thing for me. Connecting with nature. I live by the beach, so being at the beach and near the water is my go-to, definitely. What else do I do? Oh, at the moment, I'm moving house, so I've got, keeping busy in, I'm keeping busy, but in between filling my cup by going to the water and to the beach and going for a walk with my little puppy I absolutely love, And the other thing that came to me is also connecting, that connection with the people who bring that joy into your life as well. So when you connect in these sort of forums, or She Simply Impacts, and meet other women who are in similar situations, who are going through the same things, that's where you really get it. Like, it's almost like you feel supported and heard, and you allow yourself to, to really move through those emotions that may be blocking you, or those beliefs that have been programmed unconsciously, So I think it's so incredibly important to have that connection. So yeah, She Simply Impacts is just incredible for that.
Janine, does yoga, Tai Chi, things like that help you?
Mary, I used to do quite a lot of yoga, but I just now downloaded an app which is meant to be doing it each day. I stretch each day anyway. It was just a little add-on. And to do the stretching while you're breathing, which is really what yoga is about anyway. It's not just doing the stretches, but it's the breathing component with it. I'm very much with Jen. I love to get out in nature. I'm very, very blessed where I live here. All the walking tracks are through bushland, and I don't have to head onto the streets very much at all. Although when I'm up at 4 a.m. now, I don't go walking on the bush tracks. And
a bit dark at 4 a.m. at the moment.
Yes. And for me, even just the getting up at 4 a.m. and the reason I'm doing that this couple of weeks is to follow the Olympics, because it's a passion of mine, is finding things that you absolutely love to do and doing it. I'm one that, the little baggage that I brought with me from my parents is that you have to be busy all the time. You have to be working. There's always things you have to be creating and doing. And I'm a great doer. But what I've recognized, that I'm also allowed I just might want to sit and watch a movie. I'm allowed to do that. And it was a big learning for me to say that, well, that's okay. The work will get done. It's not a problem. It just is allowing myself to take the time. We do a lot of sitting around campfires also. And I don't think anything beats sitting, other than maybe watching a fish tank, but it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? It's just watching the flames, and that's quite meditative to me. But after winning that award the other day, I did a little bit of a blog about thanking the people and the clients and all that sort of thing. But one of the things that, I've been married for quite a while, and everyone that has been married for a long time knows that there's always things, that's what happens. But I recognize that my husband has allowed me to be me. And I think that is out of everything. We've talked to intuition, we're talking about ways that we can fill our soul, but if we're allowed to be the person that we are to be, and the people in our lives recognize that that's just what it is, then I think that's a great way to fill your soul and to find that comfort in living a joyful life.
And that starts with us. That starts with us allowing ourselves to be us, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how can you expect anyone else to allow you to be if you don't allow yourself to be yourself?
Absolutely.
That's how it starts.
And warts and all too, Mary.
Yeah. Warts and all. And understanding that we're not, we are perfectly imperfect. We're in this human life that we don't get it right all the time. And that's okay as well. And when we allow ourselves to be that person and to go, okay, so I'm not the same as you, and that's okay. and take the judgment out of it. It's really powerful. And that's what I think, to me, that's what a supportive environment is. That's what a supportive environment is. It's not just supporting yourself by allowing yourself, but having people around you who allow you as well to be you, but also uplift you. And I think that's what we have here in She Simply Impacts. I think that's what we have in our panel discussions. Whenever I've participated in one of these panels, I've always come off going, oh, that was such a fabulous time. For me, that is one of the things that I find really gives me energy as well, is to, like you say, Jen, to connect with others, but also to have these kind of deep conversations and allow yourself the space to then sit and reflect on what came up in that conversation and how we can integrate that into our lives moving forward. And I got so much from this today, ladies. It's been fabulous. The last question I had is, how can women create a supportive environment that nurtures their intuitive growth? But I think we've just answered that. Would you say, is there anything else anyone wants to add to that one?
No, I would just say be your own community as well. It's so important that we come together like this. We're all very passionate about She Simply Impacts, and the fact that we can feel so safe to come into all these beautiful coaching sessions. And I would complement that with be your own community as well. Have a really fabulous relationship with yourself and invest in that relationship. I was just hearing, take it easy on yourself.
Yep.
Take it easy on yourself.
Yep. And no matter where you are in that journey, that's okay.
Exactly.
You're on the journey
where you're meant to be. Exactly where you're meant to be. And it's just what can I do for myself right now? What can I do for myself in this moment? And of course, that might be come and join the She Simply Impacts community. Whatever it is for anybody, is just following through and just take it easy and take steps towards the life that you really do want to create, and you'll get there through consistency.
Yeah. So look after yourself. Know that you do know.
Yes. Yes.
Exercise that muscle of buying into your own tuition, so that you can then, rather than buying into the stories that you've been told, so that then you can drive your life forward, and make sure you surround yourself with the people who care and want to bring you forward as well. So, thank you, Angela, for coming up with this topic today. I have loved every minute of it. Thank you, all of you ladies, for sharing your wisdom. I'll pass back now to you, Angela.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you. That was so inspiring. I really, really loved the conversation, and you know, it really is, it fills my cup. So thank you, ladies, for participating. Thanks for watching, and take good care of yourselves, and lots of love, and we hope to see you in sessions, and take care, and bye for now. Bye, everyone.